Now, this is exactly what I wanted last chapter. I talked about this, and I was very much happier to read through this chapter of Fairy Tale 100 Years Quest. I gotta tell you, so I always read the raws when they come out, because I buy the chapter off the app so I can, get it hours ahead of when translations come out. And when I read the previous chapter, the Fairy Nail chapter, you can imagine as I'm reading after how awesome the Water Dragon God arc was, and then just getting an arc where it was nothing but kind of, or not an arc, but a chapter of nothing but this kind of like silly, goofy stuff. I was pretty salted over, and I talked about this in my review because it wasn't the fact that it was a goofy chapter; it was the fact that that was what we got for a 2 week span, and there was nothing else to really go off that chapter. But this chapter was able to do what I believe chapter 25 was kind of like in the idea of putting out there, but at the same time giving me what I wanted in plot progression, like even if in the very last bit. So the chapter at Rain Hill, the train makes a stop on the way to Drasil, where they're going to try and find information on Alderaan, the Wood Dragon God, as we know. And they stopped it for 2 hours. And are like, all right, we're gonna get some fresh air, go walk around. And this was actually a Gray focused chapter, which I was very happy about because we haven't really got much of Gray like as a character in a while. I think that out of everyone so far, even especially in 100 Years Quest, he's the only one that hasn't really gotten anything to really display. Like Lucy, just all around, she's getting more personal development, as we're seeing. Like there's some stuff between her and Natsu, and there was actually a little bit in this chapter which I liked towards that. You have Wendy, who's now gotten to a point where she can enchant other people temporarily with Dragon Slayer magic, which is pretty cool. And, they have their own system now for that. Urza's got new techniques with her sword, and she seems to be able to, mix and match her armors. And that happened in the anime. We never saw too much of it really in the manga. And, now she's got her, her sword she named after her mother, her maiden name of Belsarion. And from that, you get a little bit of development there, but Gray hasn't really got anything. Gray didn't bust out any new cool like techniques or have any progression of his character. So he was kind of stagnant on both progress of either just his capabilities or him as a person. And I think that was really refreshing just to get a full Gray chapter. And on top of that, we got in there, they're all kind of walking around. He meets up with Juvina from Fairy Nail, the Juvia lookalike. And I know people have like put up the theory of, that the Fairy Nail members are actually like somehow created by Alderaan, the Wood Dragon God, because we know about the whole fact of them having him having the ability to read people's minds and hearts. It's possible. It's possible because like it wouldn't surprise me if like his range was all the way like he was linked to like the roots of the tree, because I'm still putting out there the Yggdrasil theory, the world tree, Drasil named the city, War Dragon God, biggest dragon, biggest city on the continent, and so on, all these comparisons. It doesn't surprise me if like his range was up to like his roots, and his roots like reached all the way across the continent. You're gonna see that I'm calling it now still a giant ass tree, but until then, I'm still just gonna stick with kind of the lookalikes. That's just a coincidence. It could easily be that they're a product of the Wood Dragon God, but for now, let's just go with lookalikes. And the chapter was Gray hanging out with Juvina, just going on a date. There was some discussion of him being a little bit awkward around her because she thought that reminded Gray of Juvia. It was weird to see Juvia act like this, and the idea that Juvia would in his mind, like people seeing Juvia's naked body while Juvina is an erotic dancer. And there's this whole part where they're going on like a date. They go and like they eat, and you see him like going and trying on clothes. And actually, like there's a funny part where Gray strips down his underwear because she asks him about like why he's doing that if he's also a pretty much a strip dancer. And he's like, no, it's just a bad habit of mine. And well, I guess he wouldn't even really call it bad because he'd relate it to his teacher. But the thing about it I thought was actually really good in the chapter, just from that, is you see the scars on his body. Because while he's talking to Juvina and he's discussing with her about, her relationship to Glenn, and how, kind of describing the same situation that Julia is with Gray, how she's always, trying to always trying to get his affection, always trying to display her love for him, but he's always kind of like pushing it off. And there's like this part where he's like discussing how when she mentions like that he must love her, like he doesn't deny that. Like he's clearly got feelings for him. We know that from the whole part after he thought she died during the Alvarez arc, as well as kind of like leading up to it when he was talking to her before Jill assaulted Magnolia. And in the last chapter, when he was talking about, because that scar on her body that she, he's got to take responsibility for it. There's actually a part from that when he's like discussing with her, when Juvina actually flashes him and she just does it to do it. And he's like talking about it, and he's like, you may look alike, but you two act completely different. And I thought that was really good, because following that, he talks about the scar on Juvia's body. She has a big nasty scar, and he blames himself for it. And so like when you think back of it, it's like, okay, it's just Gray stripping, ha ha ha, he's doing his Gray thing. But when you see that scar, and then you see later him reminiscing, not even really reminiscing, having like a very emotional impact flashback, thinking of the scar that Juvia has and blaming himself for it. It was nice to see those kind of, be kind of like telling the audience again, remember this. This is important to their character, because when he's talking to Juvina about it, it's he does talk about how Juvia is very special to him. She's got a very important place in his heart, and how right now he's more kind of like wanting to become enough that he can protect her, because obviously her getting hurt and him thinking she died was obviously very impactful to him, because like in his mind, it wasn't just she died and I got to avenge her. It was like, I failed to protect her, I failed to do what I was, I wanted to keep her safe. And so he's trying to get to a point where he thinks he's worthy to really be with her, because I can tell, when reading through this, you can see in Gray's mind, he doesn't think that he should unless he knows that he can keep her safe, because otherwise, why would he be with her? I think it's kind of interesting on Gray's aspect. It's a kind of little bit of like Jalal's, of where Jalal, he always thinks he's not good enough for Urza. He always thinks that he hasn't redeemed and he still needs to, make up for what he's done. But for Gray's more of like, eventually, but I need to be sure of this before I go and be with Juvie, which is really nice. I like that aspect to him. And then it's like revealed that Juvina and the pseudo Gray Glenn are actually a couple, and Urza pretty much told everybody, when talking to Juvina about the fairy tale members and their lookalikes, that Juvina actually planned this upon in a meeting up with Gray, to really kind of like make him like look over his feelings for Juvia, which is really nice. And you see a part where he's just like talking about how after he's gonna be able to protect her, he wants to get back to Juvia no matter what. So good progress for their relationship, really nice. I know people are gonna be freaking out over about old Gruvia ships, and I can see it when you actually get like legit progression of it. And again, there was a little bit of Natsu too, because we get back and we see like Lucy's a little bit like bruised up. She's got like a little bit of damage marks on her, and she's wearing a different outfit now. She's wearing like a tracksuit with the Fairy Tail logo on it, and she's Lucy, is all mad at him. But you look at Natsu, he's just like, whatever. It's not a big deal. But you can tell he's like kind of getting grilled. And Wendy is like explaining that like Natsu pretty much was flexing on he was dealing with some guys that were hitting on Lucy. So on top of it just being like, oh, this happened as well, we have a clear back burner hint of Natsu clearly gets agitated at the idea of other people hitting on Lucy. So hey, Nalu shippers out there that are thinking like, damn, Gruvia got a hold of chapter. Keep this in mind. Keep that in mind. I know it's gonna be one of those chapters. And actually, like when Natsu gets motion sick, then Lucy starts messing with him. But the end of the chapter is what I was talking about at the start, where in the previous chapter, I was upset. Not that it was a bad chapter, like it was amusing, it was funny to read. There were some really nice jokes in there, and I liked the whole part with Urza at the end because it made me laugh. But the chapter ended without there being anything really to go off of to really progress the chapter or the story itself. And this one, you had, again, it was more character focused, but obviously, you still want progression of the plot that's going on. And that ends up happening in the very last page of the, well, really in the second, like this, pretty much the second to last page a little bit, but really on the last page, it's revealed that Juvia is there, the actual Juvia, not Juvina. And it's not just like, oh, Juvia's there, what's going on here? Keep this in mind. The last time we saw Juvia, she had been dealt with by Toka. Toka had taken out the entire Fairy Tail Guild, everyone that was in the building, and then when the members of Sabretooth got there, they were all gone, and we see Toka on a ship heading towards wherever Natsu's team was. And this is something that I noticed on top of that, well, or it could hint at what I mean, but maybe not. Like, look at Juvia before she going. She had more of her older style, like more set outfit with the blue and like the kind of like the fur around it. But look at what she's wearing upon meeting them. She's wearing far more white color. She's got this white down her chest with as long as this ribbon, and you know, think about it. What is Toka's entire MO is white, keeping things kind of like in this nothingness, very white themed. It's not out of the realm of possibilities that Toka is there, because otherwise, how would Juvia be there? How would Juvia know where to go? What weird interaction would be going on that Juvia would just be present? And it's clearly not just, it's not Juvina, it's Juvia. We know that Juvina is with Glenn, and she was kind of just like messing with Gray, doing like her own scheme to kind of get him to, you know, be a little bit more honest with her feelings towards Juvia and to expose kind of like what he's thinking, which was nice. I like that kind of aspect of the chapter. You had this kind of girl who heard about this character that looks very similar to her, and she wants to try and help her look like, you know, somewhere else in the world with her romantic conquest. And now we get actual Juvia, and she is very, very mysterious, because she's just saying like, it's been a long time, I had to stop by. What does that mean? You know, it's not normal, and even in Juvia's way of speak, nothing about it seems like she just like, oh, a coincidence, or I came looking for you. It seems more like, oh, I haven't seen you. You know, it's like if you run into somebody years later, and it's like, oh, hey, crazy, what's going on? Or like, I came to visit you. This doesn't seem like even how Juvia would do it. If Juvia decided, I'm gonna go to where Gray is, she would be much more affectionate. She'd be much more excited to see him. She seems way too calm, and on top of that, it just seems like a very weird manner of her speaking. So I'm telling you, I called this was my prediction a while ago, that when Toka meets up with them, she's gonna have like Fairy Tail members kind of like brainwashed to use them. Obviously, we got side stuff with like kind of like the ending and opening of the you know, the Water God arc, the Water Dragon God arc, opening up to the Wood Dragon God arc, and then going to Tekka City. And then, you know, we had the goddamn Fairy Nail chapter, you know, my whole grief with that, and then this chapter. But my whole theory with going on that one, and my prediction was that Toka was going to show up, and she was going to, by using members of Fairy Tail, because she clearly has some form of control on them. They just left the guild. They left the guild hall, and now when Toka is looking for them, here's Juvia. So where is that going to go? Other than Toka confrontation next chapter. I know people have been like complaining about, oh, it's been so long since we've seen Toka. Yeah, because this was a good setup. This chapter alone was a great setup, because it was really just like, not only was it good character development for Gray, it was a reminder of old events. It was, you know, to give you that more like feel of you know, Gray and Juvia's relationship, to kind of like, you know, let you just reminisce on events within them, and then, you know, see Gray like progressing in his feelings towards her, and then she shows up at the end of the chapter, and possibly, you know, a battle next one. Who knows what's gonna happen? And it was such a sly move to kind of get you to like, oh yeah, that's great. I'm glad they're progressing. I'm glad all these things are going. And then, you know, sneaking up behind you with like a Gruvia like hammer, and then just getting ready to smash down the ship. Not like fully destroy it, but definitely smash it, a couple holes in it, cause some issues on the open seas. So tell me in the comments what you thought about this. I thought this was a brilliant way to lay out the chapter, because again, it kind of gets you back in the mindset of their relationship, and then kind of like makes it all seem really nice and just delightful. And then right after that, open up with what could be a confrontation between the two, which is going to be great. So I love this chapter. I really wish the last chapter was like this. I really wish it was more set up like that, where at least we got something involved in it, to where, you know, to this degree, to where in the next chapter, like, oh shit, what's gonna happen next chapter? All right, is there gonna be chaos just exploding? They're gonna pretty much have to get off this train and start fighting or something. We'll see. But until then, I'd really appreciate if you thumbs up the video, prefer the like button and the subscribe button, and check out my other videos. But other than that, I appreciate everyone who's already subscribed, and I thank you all for listening. Bye.